What's up, y'all? You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Whoa. King in the castle, king in the castle. Have a chair, I have a chair.
Savage.
And we're back. One Piece 1085 is out. But before we go any further, a moment of silence for Nefertari D. Cobra.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here.
Savage.
This man stood up against the highest authority in the world. The God King Emu kicked his chair aside. Was like, no, I don't need the wheelchair for this. This is my blaze of glory. Starts reciting Nefertari D. Lily's words, and even Oda decided, you know what? You guys aren't ready for that. Yeah, your kids are gonna love it. Iconic. Went up against Sagorase. They were about to hit him with the what you say.
What you say? That you only meant well, of course you did. What you say? That it's all for the best, of course it is.
Who killed Cobra? But Sabo interfered. And through all of this, we also learn that Vivi is a D. Nefertari D. Vivi. This was a VV out of 10 chapter. Okay? And what happens when you put two V's together? You get a W! Yes, this is a big win for the channel, people. Oh yes. We have a lot to get into, but first, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. If you've been following the channel for a day, you probably know this, but if you've been here a while, you know that I have had VV stocks basically as if I bought Apple stocks in the 80s. Okay? Highest agenda on the channel, VV returns to the crew. Okay? Yes. Was it telegraphed back at the end of Alabasta and Vivi's goodbye? Yes, exactly. But I've still been sitting here waiting for it since then. And I was weekly in Skypiea, so I've been waiting a long time for this. A long time for Vivi to be in a chapter for more than one page and more than one panel. We got that today. We got that. Last time we had that was 5 years ago in the Reverie. And prior to that, it was in Alabasta. Okay? So pardon me while I ascend. Oda came through and had Vivi hit Wapol with the "Take me to the sea with you, I want to live!" Which is further emphasized by having all of the Cypherpole 9 agents from Enies Lobby, now Cypherpole 0, surrounding her, having captured her. And Khalifa even threatening for her to become a pet, which implies that she would become one of the Celestial Dragon slaves in a way, and she was like, nah, I'm definitely not gonna be a pet. And that's my Vivi right there. Alright, no Smoke Queen. She was ready to take them all on if she needed to. She is a concealed weapons expert, and I fully believe, no cope, that she would have been able to get out of those straps on her own. Probably had a peacock slasher underneath her wrist. But a better scenario came out, and as a strategist, she was like, oh, Wapol, I'm gonna hop in that mouth.
Let me in! Let me in!
So then Wapol keeps it moving. She's going to the sea with Wapol. We still need to see how this all plays between Wapol, Vivi, and Morgans. But ultimately, the way that this is written now just really implies to me that Vivi is coming to Egghead. That blimp is coming to Egghead. And if you go back to 1074 and you see the scene where we were introduced to the idea that Vivi is actually with Morgans and Wapol, Wapol is still spinning around because he thinks that he's going to get killed for knowing who Emu is. And hey, you know what? He's right to think that. But that whole scene is about everything that's going on Egghead and Morgans' interest in what's going on there and Luffy being there. So, they've got to get there. I don't think that Morgans is going to miss the opportunity for that scoop. And there are 3 possibilities for this. 1, that Morgans just knows the way to get to Egghead. 2, Vivi ends up running into Leo and Sai, which is kind of introduced a little bit here as well. And I'm a little upset with Oda with, the tell, don't show of it all, which goes back to the Korouma scene, and we've talked about this a lot. I don't want to be told the things that are happening. I want to be shown them. I don't want to be told that Sai and Leo, yelled to an entire room of people that they are flying under Luffy's banner. I want to see Sai and Leo yell at a room full of people that they are part of the Grand Fleet. But Jabra telling that to Vivi is very important, right? Because this kind of goes back to the same thing of when we learned about flame clouds from Yamato, right? Who did Yamato explain them to? Momonosuke, the person who needed to know this information, right? And for whatever reason, Fujitora freeing slaves is also information that Vivi is given by Jabra, which means that Vivi is probably going to have some interaction with Fujitora, or when Fujitora gets involved in Egghead, which completely makes sense because during the Reverie, he had a scene talking with Green Bull about Vegapunk. Anytime that the SSG was brought up prior to, seeing the Seraphim or anything, it was generally, in the introduction of it all, told to us by Fujitora. So he really should play a role in Egghead. And if they think for whatever reason that he's a bad guy, Vivi, if she's an Egghead, she maybe will be like, hold on, but this guy was freeing slaves at the Reverie, so he may put up a good face, but no, this guy's a good guy. But needless to say, if she runs into Sai and Leo while she's while Wapol is juggernauting through these walls, then they can get onto the blimp as well, and they have a Viver card to Luffy. The other idea is everything that was built up with Sabo, and it's essentially does Sabo run into Vivi before he leaves, tells her this information, and gives a Viver card to her that goes to Luffy, without him actually going, and without Luffy being there to hear the information, even though the information should be told to Vivi and Luffy at the same time. This is now the least likely outcome of it all, because I feel right now with everything going on with Sabo talking with Dragon and Ivankov at the table, and just the structure of it all. Oda took us out of Egghead to tell us all of this, because all of this will apply to not only Egghead, but the events that are going on afterwards. But they could directly apply to Egghead. So we're learning about the Reverie because Vivi may potentially go to Egghead. We're learning about the Reverie and everything going on with Dragon, Sabo, and Ivankov because they may go to Egghead. This incident is Ohara level, right? So let's get all of these people involved. Let's make it Marineford level at this point. And we now know that we have to have a scene where Luffy, Sabo, and Vivi are in the same room together learning about what Cobra wanted them to know. That they are from the same clan and need to work together. Something clicked for Cobra in a way that didn't click prior to him going into that meeting. He got not only what he wanted, he got more than he wanted. And I believe that Cobra knew he was going to die. And when Vivi finally gets back to Alabasta, when the story is over, because I don't think she's going to go back until then, she's going to, in a very emotional scene, find a note left to her by Cobra. She'll cry and all of this, and he'll tell her something sweet and nice and give her the the push to save the world, and unite the world, which I'm sure she'll already be in the process of doing, right? But I've been saying it, one of the reasons why Oda is pairing Vivi with Morgans, the thing that makes sense to me is Morgans has a very structured mechanism in this world, right? Information is power, and he has the ability to let everybody in this particular world know information. And what they know now about Emu and what they could potentially learn once Robin deciphers more of the poneglyphs is actually the biggest news in the world. And when Robin deciphers that, it is going to be Vivi that will be the one to disseminate it to the rest of the world via her relationship with Morgans. Robin will decipher, Vivi will be the voice that translates it to the world, and Morgans will be the person that gets it out there. That's what I'm believing. Why is Wapol becoming important? This is the kind of a crazy thing here. And all of this is really going back to the reverie that we got during the flashback, during Chopper's flashback, the Hero Look flashback. There is a scene, which maybe some of you have forgotten, where Vivi actually met Wapol at a prior reverie. He was yelling at Cobra because he didn't care about whatever Dragon was doing, right? So now this is another way that this is kind of tying everything in with the revolutionaries, right? Because Cobra and Wapol, their entire argument at the reverie and why they hate each other in the first place is because of an argument that was about the Revolutionary Army. That Dragon was a threat. Cobra was concerned about the Revolutionary Army, which he kind of brings up a little bit to Sabo here as well. Wapol didn't care. He's like, this doesn't affect me. And Cobra yelled at him. So then he goes and he slapped Vivi, and instead of creating an international incident and Alabasta coming in and wiping Drum off the map, Vivi instead says, sorry, I tripped into you. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, right? But Vivi and Wapol have always been linked in that way. And I do want to see a scene eventually where Vivi slaps Wapol back, but for the time being, everything happening between Vivi and Wapol is a great inversion to the reverie that happened 8 years ago. Could Wapol metal be important? Right now, Frankie is on Egghead, and he is almost completely stone. He is half stone. If he gets broken, right, and needs to repair himself, we know that General Frankie has Wapol metal in there, but does Frankie himself have Wapol metal? Because that would be a good upgrade for him. Is there a connection between Vegapunk and Wapol metal? Have some of Vegapunk's inventions been able to kind of skyrocket and get to where they needed to go through Wapol? Was he feeding him Wapol metal? Were they working together? Is he funding some of Vegapunk's stuff on the side? We don't know. And for that matter, while we're talking about the Revolutionary Army, right? Vegapunk has a tie to the Revolutionary Army, and he also has a tie to Fujitora. Fujitora was freeing slaves and essentially helping the Revolutionary Army and acting on their behalf. Now, we know this during the Reverie. Yes, he fought Sabo at Dressrosa, but is there a case for Fujitora being a secret, hidden Revolutionary Army member? Because there's kind of a triangle going on between Vegapunk, Dragon, and Fujitora, and I feel like that needs to get explored during Egghead. And we saw that S-Shark had Senor Pink's fruit, which Fujitora is responsible for the capture of Senor Pink and the rest of the Don Quixote family at the end of Dressrosa. So he would have been able to deliver that lineage factor to Vegapunk. So they're working together. There's got to be some Marines that are going to turn, and we're going to create this sort of civil war during this incident. And Fujitora and Smoker are going to create an alliance that is going to work with the Straw Hats during this. I truly, honestly believe it, and we have seen scenes with Smoker and Fujitora seeing eye to eye already. Going back to the throne room scene for a little bit, we saw the Gorosei. They've all transformed. It seems like they are mythical Zoans of some form or fashion, which we've talked about. If they were going to be anything at this point, Logias don't really seem like they're going to be that top tier thing. And for that matter, we're kind of running out of elements as well. So what Oda can do is draw from his mythology bag and really kind of flex here. It looks like maybe we have a Minotaur, we have some sort of a bird, which could be a Quetzalcoatl, it could be the Vermilion bird, it could be a rock, or maybe it's a basilisk, like we saw in level 2 of Impel Down. It looks like we have some sort of a behemoth or a mastodon or, some sort of, crazy elephant thing. It looks like Gandhi is awakened. He has the awakened deity flame. We're finally seeing what's happening, all right? We got confirmation that all of the Gorse have fruits. And we know that Emu has a fruit. And it doesn't look like it's the water fruit. And while I would love in this review and analysis to get into what I believe everyone's fruit to be, I'm going to save that for a separate video. But I will say that while we did talk during the stream about Emu having the devil fruit, the Akuma no Mi, I actually believe that it's probably the opposite of that. Stay tuned. Emu said that it was a mistake that all of the poneglyphs went out. But Emu is the bad guy. So him saying that it was a mistake means that it was a mistake for him or her. It was a mistake for them. It wasn't a mistake for the heroes of the story, because the poneglyphs were disseminated so that the information could eventually come together in one piece. Emu is targeting 4 people. I mean, maybe add Sabo to the list now, and Wapol. But as far as we know during the Reverie, Monkey D. Luffy, Marshall D. Teach, Nefertari D. Vivi, and Shirahoshi. That sounds like the old Godzilla cartoon where it's like Godzilla, 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 and Godzuki. Anyway, it basically means that one of these things doesn't line up with the others, or does it? We haven't seen a fishman that was a D, but could it be that the royal line in Ryugu Castle are Ds? We don't know what their last names are, but something D Neptune, something D Shirahoshi. There is a possibility for that as well. Or going back to the VIVI'S and ancient weapon theory, you have the 2 people that are closest to becoming the Pirate King, Luffy and the boy Marshall. And then you have the 2 actual royalty, Shirahoshi and Nefertari D. Vivi. Okay, and what did we learn going back to the Roger flashback and everything years ago? The Sea Kings, they spoke of the day that 2 sovereigns would meet, 2 royal members, and how that would change the fate of the world. And what ended up happening here? Vivi and Shirahoshi meet. And Shirahoshi talks about how she wants to say bye to Vivi. The next scene, we go to Vivi. Shirahoshi is an ancient weapon. Vivi is probably an ancient weapon as well. Let's just keep gassing up the girl for the agenda. She's coming back to the crew. She's an ancient weapon. Bam! And we probably need the ancient weapons to get the One Piece in the first place anyway, because Roger was too early and they were not born. Still go back to that scene where it rained in Alabasta, and it is drawn, shaded, and accentuated in the exact same way that Shirahoshi looked when she used her power for the first time. So in my mind, Uranus or Pluton, but more likely Uranus because we're dealing with the sky, has to do with the sky. The scene with Sabo, the little flashback where he's with young Luffy and young Ace, like that's a fun one where he's talking about the D, and then they basically tell him that he can be Sa D Bo, which when you look at it and you just read it straight, right? Kind of like Gold Roger, it's almost like Sad Boy. You got Joy Boy, you got Sad Boy. My man's just dancing through the pain.
Going borderline insane. She said, why don't you dance through the pain? Dance through the pain.
It was brought to my attention that Mu, like when you take the I from Emu and you just remove that is another way of saying void, right? We're dealing with the void century. But we also talk about eras in One Piece, right? The era of Roger. This era will be named Whitebeard. There's a lot of emphasis on claiming a certain period of time, right? So is it a double entendre that the Void Century is also the Mu Century? The Emu Century, the era of Emu, where they started their reign. It's not lost on me. During the short scene with Hamburger, he's presiding over the rest of the Reverie. He's telling them, hey, look, Wapol and Cobra, they're not coming, but it's cool. They told us we can keep going. Neptune is there, but Riku is the interesting thing because he is kind of like, he's saying that's sus, right? He's calling bullshit on that one. He's got the ... and he's like, I don't know. I was just talking with Cobra. Him and I, we share a special bond. We both had Shichibukais come into our countries. Okay? I do not believe this for a second. This man would not be missing this meeting. And now I'm kind of worried for Riku. Like, is he kind of inheriting a little bit of Cobra's will after this? Maybe he gets out of the Reverie, but maybe him and he and the Kingdom of Dressrosa do something and act. Maybe him and Elisabello get together. Are we gonna get like a crazy King Punch out of all of this at some point? I don't know, but I want that. So given everything that we've seen, there are a couple of things that need to get tied up before the Reverie is completely concluded, and that's Vivi and Wapol, setting off with Morgans, Garp escorting the Ryugu Kingdom back down to Fishman Island, Sai and Leo, where did they go? How did Sabo actually get off of Marijoa? And the reaction of Cobra's death to Vivi and to everybody that came with. So we're talking Igaram, Chaka, etc. A lot of that stuff doesn't necessarily need to be shown, but some of it should be. Most of it won't be. We may not even need to see Garp actually interact with Shirahoshi and get them away. That could also even be 2 panels, but it depends on if Oda wants to really expand upon that. These are things that could happen in the next chapter. The thing that is the most important thing that needs to happen and will happen, and that's the thing that we will see, is the continuation of this at the end where Vivi and Wapol actually run into Morgans and get out of there. Or they just see the blimp, and without Morgan's permission, they get on the blimp. That's a possibility as well, and they just stow away. I'd love to see a scene where, since Cobra told Chaka to go and take care of Vivi, I'd love to see a scene where he's actually trying to find her and can't. So, in theory, we could get up to a certain point with everything that needs to happen with Vivi, kind of wrap up with Sabo leaving, and then come back to Kamabaka and finish the conversation actually as it's being told to Dragon and Ivankov, and then maybe get their resolution to go to Egghead or not, or continue with whatever plan that they're already, putting in place. But man, I am excited. Yes, I am. And that's going to wrap things up, guys. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, everybody for joining me today. We will be continuing and finishing our watch through of season 1 of Chainsaw Man this Tuesday. After that, we'll figure out a schedule for it. Maybe it'll still be on Tuesdays, but we'll do read-throughs of the manga. They're going to be members only. That's nothing against anybody that's not a member. I just want to give back to the people that are members, because we have like 250 members. So I want to start doing more members-only content. And also, I don't think that the algorithm is going to fare really well with something that's outdated. Now, when I catch up to the manga, we'll do public streams for whatever the latest chapter is. That's sort of my plan right now. I'm bringing the store back. I'm working with a new company and a new thing to get that out. So Certified Drip on the way soon. I'll keep you guys posted. And I want to thank all of our members, new and old. We got a bunch of people that either joined or rejoined, and those names are Marios L, DJ Red Comet 369, Tribe, Kidlet, Simon Ace, KT Core, Nighthawk, KCC, Brian Field, Landon, Sheesh, Miles, G. Milla, Emmanuel Astorga, Peanut Butter and Wavers, TV in the Attic, Victoriana, Zigzag, Sword Egg, Ghost X, 3-Day Trip, Phantom Greyfire, The Will of Dreams, Yoda the Tweed, Don Masama, Nicer, Gaming My Life Away, Killer Comedy TV, MK, Jay Chizemp, Nico Pinks, Carlos Diaz, Atlas 100, Court Prez 87, Darkest, Carmelo Smith, Nasty Ninja 808, Pearl Johns, Ramon Montoya, Aether, Sway Shocks, Man's Art, David Cott, Panicked Pikachu, Mateus, Platinum Fox, Sunjin Wu, Sasjin, Kaki09, Michael Hollenbeck, Blaze X, Cash, Tim Hillegman, and Cosmos. There's a lot of names there. There's like 50 people in the last week that joined. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. And we'll be back here for 1086 next Sunday because there is no break. Vivi Piece continues. Like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. See you guys soon. Later.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.